I used to be one of those miserable people who insisted on reading every book that I started from cover to cover, even when the writer had amply revealed his shortcomings, when the plot became improbable or the characters were wooden. I had to stick to it, and I had to keep reading. It was like a bad marriage with no way out. And for years, this compulsion also ruled my art practice. I religiously filled every last page of my sketchbooks before allowing myself the pleasure of starting a fresh one. And there was just something so satisfying about those neat rows of completed, dated books on my shelves, a tidy timeline where I could point to exactly where one chapter of my artistic journey ended and another one began. But life, and especially creativity, rarely follows such orderly patterns. Now, I'm naturally a pretty disciplined person, and that structure has served me well in lots of different ways, but sometimes that discipline can also feel suffocating. Part of me loves maps and plans and lists and check boxes and knowing exactly what comes next. But there's another part that's constantly yearning to roam free. And these days, my approach has become more fluid, more organic. Instead of forcing everything into one chronological timeline, I've started letting my different interests find their own dedicated homes. I've got a dedicated sketchbook for my Draw With Me sessions, and I've got another one for my gardening journal, another one for urban sketching, for fountain pens, for alcohol markers, and for individual journeys that I might take. And so many little books for ideas and lists and notes and half-formed thoughts. There's something almost poetic about half-finished sketchbooks that are like an abandoned conversation or an interrupted dream, or maybe half-eaten sandwiches lying around in stacks on my desk, each holding fragments of different creative moments. Sometimes I return to them, sometimes I don't. But they've become physical markers of my evolving relationship with creativity. It's less structured, perhaps more chaotic, but somehow it feels more authentic, more true to the natural ebb and flow of my creative life. But I'll be honest with you, sometimes I wonder if this is just an excuse. Have I simply grown less disciplined, less focused, less committed to my authentic creative self? I like to tell myself that by loosening the rules, I give myself freedom to be wonderfully creative in all kinds of directions. But there's a downside to this sort of unfettered freedom. When I give myself too many choices, I get lost in all the possibilities, and I wander after shiny new things with no thought of what I'm leaving behind. I go further, but I rarely go deeper. It's also hard to keep a lot of balls in the air at once. I abandoned my garden journal about a quarter of the way through because I got a new sketchbook filled with really cool colored paper. And I filled about 50% of my 100% cotton sketchbook. But then I got lured back to my iPad and my gouache palette dried up. I drew portraits of men in watercolor, but then I got sucked into colored pencils. There's no one way of working. Our creative lives naturally meander. We try different things, we make new discoveries, we hit dead ends, we change direction, and we carry on. And we can always go back. I can go back to those half-finished sketchbooks and fill the remaining blank pages at the end. I can revisit stalled ideas with a fresh perspective. I can add tempera to ink drawings. I can throw new glazes onto abandoned watercolors. I can redraw a face. I can rewrite a paragraph. I can see a scene with new eyes, rethink a thought. It's not regressing. It's going back to a wiser way of working after sailing the 7 seas and playing the field. But maybe it's me that's the unfinished book, still being written, occasionally dull and predictable, and then suddenly suspenseful and wild. And perhaps that's exactly as it should be. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, sign up for my free essays. I'll send you great advice like this every week. And subscribe to this channel. I put out new videos every week. And next, watch this.